I heard the story from Dan Dwyer in 1959. I was going to the Army, and I was out in the front yard with him. He said, I want to tell you something, Ken, that people don't talk about, but it involves the alien incident. Our fire crew from the Roswell Fire Department was one of the first on scene. He said, when we got there, we've seen things like you've never seen before. There were two, I'm going to call them creatures, the way he described it. They were dead. And there was pieces scattered all over the pasture. Within 2 days, government people showed up talking to the families of the people that had been on site. And were told to keep their mouth shut, not to discuss it with each other or anyone, or basically the families would be split up. And they'd never see each other again. That was the threats. It scared the heck out of the kids. So no one ever talked about it.
Ken seemed sincere, but his story was a long way from the official version of events.
On July 3rd, 1947, something exploded mid-air near to Roswell, New Mexico, and came down leaving wreckage sprawled over a square mile. The U.S. Air Force say what crashed was a military device being flown for Project Mogul, a top-secret program monitoring the nuclear activities of the Soviet Union. They also claimed what witnesses saw were just crash test dummies dropped from a great height, and that little gray men never entered the equation. Case closed? Afraid not. This fourth official explanation was given 50 years after the event. In 1994, the Army Air Force had put out its third explanation, admitting it had lied after all, with its weather balloon story back in '47, which was actually its second explanation. Confused? That was the idea. In 1947, 3 hours after its first press release, the U.S. Army Air Force, as it was then called, claimed that this first statement, the one admitting they had retrieved a real flying saucer, was also incorrect, and that it was nothing more than a simple weather balloon. All in all, 4 official explanations over a 50-year period, and officially 3 sets of lies admitted to by the military themselves, all on record.
It was the last day of the dig, and it seemed like the pressure was on to find something.
Turn-by-turn coordinates on getting out there. So I had to go and well, it was. I turned on my computer.
The convoy was in a hurry and took a different route in. And as I held back for the Mexican crew to keep up, the rest vanished in the dust clouds. Within minutes, we were lost.
Is this it? Is this it?
The only man with coordinates had left us behind, and there were roads to nowhere in every direction.
Yeah.
So pretty difficult. Which way was it now? Was it left?
Left. Was it left?
We were miles from civilization, and we'd been lost for nearly an hour. That was them.
Just stay with us now.
Yes, please.
Guys,
Get slower, please.
what happened?
You lost us.
No, we're behind. You lost us.
We were doing about 40 all the while. We were making sure, and the others all kept up. So,
Can you
but
be,
how did you? But we're okay now. Just stay with us.
I promise you I won't forget after this time.
Okay.
Glad to be back on track as Don drove away at his version of 40 miles an hour. There was a day I wouldn't forget on this trip. The day I met with Frankie Rowe. Her father was Dan Dwyer, the witness who had shared his story with Ken. She'd held some of the fragments of the UFO in her own hands.
Well, it was a few days after I was at the fire station that the military came to our house. I saw the car when it drove up the driveway, and it was a military car, you know, flags and all. They went all out for this. He started asking questions first about what did I think I saw. And I told him the whole thing. I saw the material. I saw the state cop that came down. And he said, no, you didn't. You didn't see that. I said, yes, I did. So I came back at him, which made him angry. And he's very emphatic about it, beating his hand with his nightstick and telling me I didn't see all this, so I didn't hear it, and I didn't know about it. And if I ever talked about it or told anyone about it the rest of my life, they would come after me. He said, this is a big desert out here. Nothing but a desert. He said, we can take you out there and bury your bodies and nobody will ever find you. Due to a phone outage on my house phone, a telephone repairman discovered that I had a wire on my phone that was transmitting everything that came in or went out to some other location. It could not have been there when I bought the house because I had my service put in, repairmen were out there. Someone installed it for whatever purpose, I don't know.
Just after the crash, Mac Brazel found wreckage on his sheep ranch. He took some fragments to the town sheriff at Roswell, who immediately called the intel officer at the Roswell Army base, Jesse Marcel. This is where things got much more serious. After retracting their initial statement and publicly playing the event down, the Army then turned the entire region upside down and threatened the witnesses with their lives if they as much as whispered about what had really happened. They even arrested Mac himself for simply reporting it to the authorities, locking him up until he was persuaded to say that all he had seen was a weather balloon. But hundreds of witnesses are now on record saying this mundane explanation is a complete fabrication. Dozens of credible professionals, with everything to lose and nothing to gain, say the official story is a lie, and that it was in fact an object and persons of unknown origin.